Welcome to episode one of GearGeek.com, the interview series. My name is Matt. I'm joined by my co-host Zach and our very first guest, obviously. He was the 2014 first round pick of the Phoenix Coyotes, originally born in Guildford, the United Kingdom, and then eventually settled back in his family's hometown of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Thank you for joining us, Brendan Perlini.
Guys, yeah, honor, man. Thank you guys for having me on. Um, yeah, it's gonna we're gonna talk some good shop today. I'm really excited. We kind of have been going back and forth over DMs for a while, so I'm glad we can finally meet on here and talk some good gear.
So what have you been up to lately? I know you've been getting into the YouTube game here a little bit.
Yeah. So I took a little bit more time off this year. It's a funny thing, and I've kind of talked to a couple different people on this recently, where the seasons just go by so quick. Like it just one after another, and it feels like I'm still 18 years old, and I'm closing in on 30. I'm 28 now, but it kind of got to a point where I'm just like, man, like I felt like I just wasn't ready after last season to start up again and start training and get back into it and go to training camp. And so I said, you know what? Like nobody's holding a gun to my head. I'm out of contract. So I was like, just take some time off here, just chill. I recently got back from, I was out in Costa Rica for month and a half or so, just chilling and surfing and really, really enjoying it. And yeah, you mentioned the YouTube thing there. I got into YouTube at the end of last season. I was kind of building it throughout the season of like what I wanted to do, whatever. And then come the end of the season, yeah, threw that out, and it's been awesome. It's been really, really fun. Done a few episodes kind of on the gear stuff, like touching in and out, because some people really want to get technical on it, and some people don't know what the heck you're talking about. So you sort of have to, like, I'm towing the line a little bit of it. But yeah, actually, speak of it, I have part one of my stick kind of episode coming out this week, talking about like my history of sticks and what I sort of used. And I have currently right now I'm in Chicago, but back at our place in Detroit, our basement is just like, it's like a warehouse of stuff. So I couldn't, it's terrible lighting in there, and I would have loved to film down there, but I just kind of had to pick and choose and take some stuff outside because couldn't even see anything on the camera. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. And thanks you guys again for having me on and whatnot. It's going to be fun chatting with you guys.
Yeah. So going through your YouTube channel a little bit, like I could totally tell that you are like big into the gear and all that kind of stuff. Like, and it's not just hockey, it's golf too.
Yeah.
So like when did you like find this love for equipment, whether it's like hockey or golf? What was there a specific piece of equipment that like really was like, oh man, I need to know everything about this?
Yeah, you know what? I think I get it from my dad. He's a real tinkerer. Um, and growing up in the UK, our garage that he had built was stuff like from the rink that they were throwing out, whatever. Like he kind of built something that was, at that time too, it was two piece. So we learned from like, I think I was 7 years old, and we had a heat gun and blowtorch and knew how to take the blades out, grind down the heel, what lie five, everything, and using that, putting different knobs in and trying it. And so right from when we were young, like I always felt like that. And it always felt to me like, I don't know if I just want to say like good having a new stick or whatever. Like at that time, you could just like pop a new blade in, my dad worked for the pro team, so he would grab, someone break a stick and grab the shaft, cut the end off, boom, stick a blade in. It was like you had a new stick, right? So yeah, I think that's where it originates from. And then just over the years, right, of my brother going to Michigan State, and then him getting custom sticks, kind of passing them on to me, and always talking about like my dad was huge in lies. And I think when he was in his playing day, like if you watch one of my latest episodes of him talking about his sticks, he started using Daryl Sittler sticks back in the day. And I think it was Boreas Salming was the same curve. And it's kind of like this long dry-sidle paddle. Like they had square toe back in the day, but the thing was like long. And it was a lie 7. And he always said to us, like, man, I messed up going to that. Like, I definitely messed up. I should have played with a lower lie and stuff. And he felt like his shot suffered with it. So from us as a young kid, he always drilled into us like low lie, low lie, low lie. So we knew right about that, like growing up from, the age 6, 7, 8 to 10, you know what I mean? And was always about that. Now we'll get into a little bit later. I ended up making a mistake with my lie later on, but that's where it sort of all this stuff into the gear originates from. Was originally like sticks, and then you piece it of, then it evolved to skates and other stuff, visors for me, throughout. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So, I mean, I guess let's get into it a little bit and talk about, your career and history of some of the equipment that you've used. And if I may, start off, doing some research on, where you spent your time playing in the NHL and whatnot. And one thing that stood out in particular, and I know this is always a hot topic and one that everybody loves on social and with Gear Geek and whatnot. And that's about the 4500 helmet.
Right.
Switching away from sticks a little bit. So if I'm not mistaken, in 2018-19, you start off that season in Arizona with the Coyotes. You were wearing a React helmet,
Yep.
but then you ended up in Chicago, I think in like November, and you started off in Chicago with the React, but then like quickly after you had switched to a 4500. So how did that go down? Did you initiate that request, or did you just happen to come across one in the Hawks room, or how did that
No,
happen?
yeah. First off, like we're not even 5 minutes in, and I'm loving this already because you don't usually get this talk, right? So, and I will say too, how new is the channel on Instagram and whatnot? Because I wanted to ask. I'm like, man, these guys would have had a day with my stuff, and all props to you guys as far as like you're on it, man. Like what guys are using, and it's very cool. It's cool to see. But I guess to answer your question, as far as the switch in the helmet, so I tinkered with it a few times before. So started. Let me date it a little bit back to junior. Was the Ovechkin V8 or whatever it's called. That was a classic one in junior. They switched us to more, I think it's a tax or something like that. So it was a terrible like inside liner that it didn't like. It hurt my head. It didn't fit right. So when I went into pro, that the Bauer one there that you got behind you, the Reactor, whatever it was called, it just had a nice inside where I'm like, damn, this is soft. This is nice. So I wore it. It felt very light. Wore that a bit. Had some success. And then I got concussed. I want to say it was starting my second year in Phoenix, and that's where you kind of notice a trend. I switched to dark visor. I was very close to switching to a Warrior helmet. I tested a few different helmets after a concussion because I was like, well, I don't want that to happen again. So you're testing different things of what maybe fits my head. Stayed with that. But it was kind of in my head a little bit that like at some point I wanna move to something else. So when I moved here to Chicago, I guess the easiest way to say is like for me, if stuff is not going right, sometimes I look for a switch just to like re-up the mojo, like get something different. Maybe I look at myself a bit different in like, the old theory of look good, feel good, play good kind of thing. Well, I really try to like I kind of embody that of like sometimes a new thing for me, like a new pattern, a new graphic, whatever it is. It just sometimes can spark something. And when I came to Chicago, it didn't have like the greatest start. And at first it was the stick that I used that. I was using the Ribcore one, the one that Ovechkin used for a long time, and got to a point where it didn't feel off. Switched to Marion Host's curve. It was actually Michael Kempney in a 1S Bauer. It was like cut way shorter than mine. Sure enough, first game, boom, score. And so, kind of ran with that for like a little bit, maybe like a week long extra, and then switched back to mine. We were on the road somewhere. We were going to Winnipeg or something like that. And as far as the helmet goes, I felt like, yeah, maybe I just, need to change as far as that too. And I was just I went over to tasers in the locker room, so I was just kind of feeling tasers and whatnot. My brother wore that at Michigan State too, the 4500. I always liked it. And I just thought, you know what, screw it. Like, yeah, I think it's time. So sometimes with the trainers, I will say this that people won't know behind the scenes. The trainers are busy, man. They're running around, they're doing
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So sometimes when if it's like sticks are easy to you give a guy a stick and he can do his thing, but helmets, they're putting the decals on, they're doing so sometimes they don't want to do that stuff. So for me, I'd never worn the thing before, but I made it as if like I had. So I said to the trainer at the time, I'm like, hey man, yeah, I'm not, I recently switched into this React. I don't really like it. I think I want to go back to my old one. And they're like, well, what's your old one? Oh, the 4500. So can you bring that on the road with us to Winnipeg? So I wore it in like one practice and then wore it boom straight in the game. And that's how that kind of came about. And then just wore it. Yeah. The rest of that year, wore it again in Detroit, into COVID, and then went over and played in Ambry in Switzerland during the COVID period when the league was shut down. And that actually brought me back into CCM because it had a really nice inside liner. And I realized, like, man, this 4500 is like wearing this like wood desk. It's hard. And every time I would get hit, it would pop around and stuff too. And like it probably wasn't right for me. But I always seen so many guys, man, Kovalchuk, Pavel Bure. Like you go back in the thing, I'm like, those were my style guys growing up. Marion Gabrick, like loved all that. So yeah, glad that I got to wear it for a bit. And I wish I had it here right now, man. It's downstairs. But I actually did recently, probably about a month ago or whenever I got back a couple of weeks ago. I took the liner out of the Red Wings 4500 I have, and I cut the tax liner out and stuck it in there. And I actually really like it. Like it feels good on my head. It looks really good, but it feels like better on my head. So yeah, I love like messing with stuff.
The transition to that was like no problem or anything. Like it fits in there perfectly.
So. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if like they would like let me wear it. Like there's a few bits missing from that. And I noticed it sort of squeezes a little bit just at the back here, but it's cool, man. I seen a guy, I don't know who did this online, but I seen someone put the React in there, and then that's what gave me the idea. And I'm like, man, I wouldn't mind messing around with that and seeing how that feels and stuff. And because I'll say this about 4500, like it's really light. It's such a light old school helmet, right? Like it's not, at the speeds we're going and stuff, like protection wise, it's not great, but at least for me, it wasn't. But yeah, it's something to kind of mess around with and whatnot.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what in like the comments and the messages that we get, like it's always people saying like when is Bauer going to relaunch it with a different liner or like some
Mm,
more protection or
they
something.
should.
So yeah, I mean it's easy for me to say and for us to say, but like I feel like at some point it's gonna get to a point
Mm.
where they just hammer it out. And I don't know if it's 5 years, 10 years, but sometime in our lifetime, in the near future, we probably do see some kind of 4500 reboot, and man, that's going to be an exciting day. I'd
Yeah, that'd
imagine.
be really cool. That'd be
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, all right. Well, switching to from a stick side a little bit, from the clips and photos that we we're checking out from you, didn't really look like there was too much fluctuating from blade curves from you, but I'll let you take it. If you did
Yeah.
switch curves at all, we'd like to know. And
Yeah.
say the one that you typically do prefer.
Okay, so I throughout the history, and again, you'll see this, I guess, in my video, but I've always been a lie five, like regular Sakic was a lie six, so we always had a lie five Sakic, both me and my brother, and that was the staple of our curve, sort of growing up and into custom curves as far as college, junior, and then into pro. Um, Teetered like I guess came from originally before that from a Drury, if you remember the old heel curve,
Oh
like that
yeah,
Zetterberg Drury,
yeah.
into that. It was like those were the two curves, right? Drury, Sakic. And I guess over the course of, I'm trying to think in junior, never really messed around in junior much because there wasn't really a big transition at that time. Like I don't even think there was really a P28 or anything like that. The one that I messed around in junior a little bit with was my third season. We were CCM stuff. I noticed, and this is shout out to them because they were really good, and more specifically the guy Tim Schultz was great. Um, I noticed one game, Malkin was always the Easton guy, right? And at that time, they were kind of just like tailing out, and he switched into CCM. And so I texted the CCM guy right away. Hey, Timmy, I seen Malkin just switched into, I don't know if it was like TAC or Ribcore or whatever at the time. You think I can get my hands on one of those curves, like a sample? Yep, boom, send it right away. And Malkin's kind of goes like in a bit, right? Like it almost covers the puck as opposed to everything else at that time was flipping like outwards. So messed around a little bit with that. I don't know if I ever played any games with that. I don't think so. But going into pro, yeah, that was my curve. Bauer, I don't know. Sometimes it felt like they couldn't get that right. Like, see, originally it was Reebok, the Reebok Ribcore, like nailed it with the curve and stuff. And Bauer, I tried like a Nexus. What was the one that you just posted with Justin Schultz there?
The 1000.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of those, and then like I was trying it, but the lie felt too high, and then it felt very low, and they just couldn't seem to match it up with the CCM one. So I was rolling with CCM for a while. We get into pro, started off really good in Tucson, and was kind of using my CCM stuff, and then over the course of I guess the years in the NHL, you won't find much. Like, and this is where I said, like, you guys do a good job in researching and whatnot. You won't find much in games, but in practices over the course is like gone crazy, really. Like, I don't even like up to this day right now. I don't even really use the same stick every practice now. Like,
Oh,
it changes that much because, and I'll tell you why. Like now, um, and it kind of got to the point too because me and Duncan Keith, like Dunks was very similar in this
oh,
regard, and
yeah. Oh,
Dunks was
yeah.
like the master, so we got along like great with this stuff, right? And um, but what I was looking for, I guess, to change was like it's so monotonous in the NHL and in professional hockey. You do the same thing every day. And I'm sure you could say that in anyone's work, right? But especially in ours, you come in, you see the same guys every single day. You only get 2, 3 off days a month. So it's just very, very monotonous. You practice, you do the same drills every day. You do so I just needed something to stimulate me. And what I kind of mentioned earlier with the helmet, something like reinvigorate and I just found that with sticks that it was an easy like, okay, let me take this one out here today. And it felt like I was like a kid, like get excited about it, tape it up a different way and stuff. And originally like it started like maybe, yeah, with the Geno one And then when I come into when I was in Arizona, I started messing around with Goligoski sticks. And I actually did. You can find some pictures out there somewhere, but I used one of his jet speeds, like it was tiny, in a few games. It did really well with it, and it was kind of a similar Malkin-esque curve. But getting into Chicago when I came here, then Hossa had recently left. He left a bunch of his sticks around, started toying with Hossa's curve. Dunks had a bunch around, Taser's curve. Like there was just a lot to play with, and it was very easy for me to like I know what I used, and it was that ribcore one at the time. So I would always come back to that. And it was like I used that curve since 6 years old, and I was so used to I knew what I could do with it. And it just felt like I got to a point where it was like, not that you couldn't get any better with it, but it just, I knew it inside out. And it was like, I'd use something else. And the Hossa one, like bigger pocket curve, it actually like made me a better player. I did some things with it that I couldn't do with mine. And then when I went back to mine, I'm like, whoa, okay, I know how to handle it like this now and like this. So almost training aids in a way, for sure. I would use still these days, man, I got I think I got it downstairs, a true 6.0, like just one of them real heavy first ones, and take that out at practice. And like last year, guys are like laughing at me at how old the stick was and stuff, but we'll use like heavier ones in practice. I really mess around for sure.
Yeah, and so it's like as much of a mental thing, like just to
Mm-hmm.
kind of give you like a fresh start, as much as it is like let me see what I'm capable of. I mean, that's
Yeah,
something I'll
totally.
speak for myself. I didn't think of it, from just the change it up factor. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's very
Yeah,
cool.
no, it's totally that. And it's like nowadays the with these ones, which are the 2N Pro XLs that we talked about, and I'm at that point now again too, where it's like I know this Taze curve really well. I've used it for since COVID, so 4 or 5 years now. And now I just use something different in practice. Depends what I'm doing. If I'm doing some stick handling stuff, I might use a heavier one. Then I come back to it. I'm like, holy, I can handle it all over the place, like really good. Yeah, I've used, man, you name it. Like I've pretty much tried it at this point. Even like comes into my head. I don't know if it was you guys or another stick guy who put it out there the other day, but just talking about the one with the hole in it, the Bauer one with the hole in it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that was us. It was
yeah,
the Luke Hughes one. Yeah, the Nexus
yeah,
ATV.
yeah. Well, the one after that, because that came out, and that was what, ADV or something it was called, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. The one they put after that, I think they called it Sling. So I have
yes, yeah.
in my video, I was actually the first guy in the NHL to use the Sling in a game, like that one, not the ADV, because I know Kuzi had used that and stuff at certain points. But yeah, I got to a point, and even a quick funny story on that is I used, was rocking with what was this one here, the orange kind of, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, the orange Nexus,
Geo, yeah, it's
yeah,
a
Geo
geographic
there.
there.
And
Yeah.
I was on a good roll right after Christmas. I had scored, I think, three and three. And we were playing somebody at home. I don't know who the heck it was. It might Ottawa or somebody like that. And those ones, we just got back off the road. Those ones came in with the hole in it. And I'm like, man, I'm using this tonight. And so, and I just scored 3 in 3 games, right? So you think, I wouldn't change it up, whatever. I was like, nah, screw that. I'm using this. So we get into the game, and I use it maybe about 4 or 5 shifts. And shout out to Colton Sevier. I played with Sieves on a line, and he was like, "Man, what are you doing using that thing? You just scored 3 in 3 games." I was like, dude, give me a broomstick. I don't care. I'll score tonight. And when you're just in that good of a rhythm. And so I play a few shifts with this. I'm fumbling it all around. So sure enough, I chuck it back to trainer. I say, give me the other one back. Boom, next shift, go out and score. So yeah, it was funny. I used it for about a period or so, and then went straight back to that. But I self-proclaimed first guy to use that in the NHL, which is cool.
You mentioned Duncan Keith, and being notorious as like the
Mhm.
texting Parchi at 3 a.m. thinking he wants to try this out the next day. When you show up to the Hawks and you got to realize that you're a tinker too, is Parchi just like, oh, come on, another one? Like, or were they more like, or they very like very cool about that kind of stuff? Like, I mean, this is awesome. Like, let's get you guys what you need.
Yeah, yes and no. See, I was different about it in the sense of Dunks was like he would go out. So the story behind mine, and somebody can go back in my first YouTube video rating NHL players and watch this where I talk about it. But Dunks would use my stick and come in and say, order 100 of those sticks. I wouldn't do that, because I knew that I probably wasn't using it in a game. I was like 100% going back to my old stick for the game, but it was just more of a practice thing and stuff. So I would almost like a lot of times if guys were throwing it out, Anisimov, like, yeah, this one's dead. It's like, all right, well, if you're going to chuck it out or you guys are selling it, I'll take it and I'll use it for a bit in practice. And you know what I mean? So that's kind of, I would do it more on the sly sense. And before you know it, you see my stick rack just building up and up and up. And then, we start getting 6, 7, 8 sticks in there. And then I'll start. I always heard when I was young too that Crosby and Malkin would stockpile sticks and have a ton in the back. So I started doing that. And just these different ones. Yeah, like I said, Anisimov, if he's throwing, he had a gold, it was like a remake of the AK-27. And I was like, dude, don't chuck that. Give that to me. I want that. So I would just keep it in the back. And then, on certain days, like it come the end of the season, leave with a ton of sticks and whatnot. Right. So, yeah, I don't think, those guys would even like know too much because I would sort of do it on the sly, in a way, or I'd spray paint it a different way, and they'd be like, "Oh, where'd you get that one?" you know. So yeah, I kind of do it more on the sly end for
You
sure.
made an effort to make it easier on
I
them
did,
and
yeah,
not just go like 0 to 100, like give me
yeah,
50 of those.
because
Like, come
because
on, man.
because I knew too that like not to say those guys weren't going to do it, but I just knew Patrick Kane is, like I said in one of my videos, Patty Kane went through 60 pairs of elbow pads. So they're sewing the thing on and off, the little white thing, the slash guard. They're sewing them on and off. Then Dunks wants 100 sticks. Taser wants this. So I'm like, man, those guys they won everything. They're not really going to deal with me like to the same regard, right? So that's what I was kind of like, you know what, I'll do my own little thing. I'll, behind closed doors, I'll figure it out. And I would talk to like the third trainer or whatever, say, hey, what's Hossa got around? What other ones you got around in storage? Bickle's got a cool curve, whatever, like, and kind of do it kind of that way. Yeah. And even just ask players too. Even just ask players of like, yeah, what do you got back there? Let me see. You mind if I try this? Like, kind of do it like that.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, moving into a little bit further along now, and a little bit more recently, and I'm hoping this question can kind of help address some questions that we get. We get blown up in DMs and in
Mm-hmm.
comments about this. So I want to talk about your time in Edmonton. It was a little bit, it was short, but I noticed that season was when the Warrior Covert QRE 10 gloves had come out, and you are probably one of three. The three might even be a generous number of guys in the NHL to wear those gloves, and it's a common thing now with these new gloves that are coming out that they don't catch on in the NHL, and now the QR6s are starting to catch on here. These new ones from Warrior. So there's that. I will say, excluding Bauer, obviously, because Bauer, the new Vapors, the new Supremes, whatever, they
Mm-hmm.
catch on pretty well. But anyway, so you were wearing those QRE 10s when for your short time in Edmonton, and we just got to know, like, how did you get into them? Like, were you forced into
Yep.
them? Did you actually seek them out, or what was it?
Yeah, so I did seek him out. What happened was when I went to Europe the year before, during the COVID time, I told you I played in Ambry in Switzerland, and they were the team provided gloves. And I had never used black palms before on the gloves, so I thought, like, man, these are nice. Like, they're comfy and stuff. Nice black palm on them, and I did well over there. And like, yeah, when you have a little bit of success, like coming back over, I always felt like this too. Let me just say this real quick, and I explained this to some guys too. I always like to like, I'm never going to be a Crosby type guy who wears the same thing and has the same style for the entire 20 years. I don't know why. I've just been like that since a kid, and not even hockey related, haircuts, whatever. Like, I'm always just trying to freshen things up. And, it almost feels like a new version of yourself when you just feel a bit different. And I've translated that into the hockey in regards to, like, last year had long flowy hair out of the helmet. First time I ever really done that, and really tried to like change some stuff up, different skates, whatever. And so at that point, when I felt good in Switzerland coming back, I was like, well, I don't really want to. The last time I left, I was kind of wearing CCM stuff. I was wearing a 4500. I was using black tape. Now I was like totally different. It was the opposite. I was taping it like Taze. Because that was, let me just say real quick, that was another thing on sticks I noticed is I would get a stick, and like I would get Malkin's stick. I had to tape it like Malkin. Otherwise, it didn't seem like it was the same. Like when I would tape it how I taped it, it just looked different. It didn't look right and stuff. And then when I would tape it like how that player does, I'm like, whoa, this just looks totally different. I don't know why, but to my eye, it just, yeah, like I got Taze's one first. I was a black tape guy. I used black tape on it. I'm like, this looks horrible. So taped it how Taser did, and yeah, felt like boom. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm used to seeing. Like that looks nice. That it's, I don't know, the visual and something is really weird. But to get back to your question on the gloves there, coming back from Swiss, I wore them over there. Felt really good. The Warrior rep in the summertime, I met with him in Arizona because I was training out there. I said, hey, man, like, I want these ones done. Like, this is what I'm wearing right now. Oh, yeah, we'll get you the Warrior Pro, like, white palm, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Like, I want this black palm. Do this exact glove. Don't change anything on it. Do this exact one. So that's where it happened, I guess. And I didn't really know that was an unpopular glove per se. And at the start of camp, you'll notice in some pictures, I do have, when I first got there, they didn't have my gloves in. So I had to wear, it was just like a general Warrior pair that had like the tight cuff on there, which I don't actually like because I wear a slash guard thing. So it feels like I can't move my wrist, and the white palms and stuff. And it just felt weird. And sure enough, it was like boom, boom, boom. Every preseason game I was scoring. So I'm like, wow, I'm loving these gloves now. So I actually, when the black ones came in, I didn't want to move into them. But they ordered me like 10 pairs of them or something. So I was like, you know what? I'll try them out. And when I put them back on, I was like, oh, yeah, man, these are way nicer. Like, they felt really, really good. So, and ever since, I like that black palm. It's not always, these other companies, CCM and all that, they don't really do that. But, yeah, I really enjoyed those gloves. Still have like probably at least 6, 7, 8 pairs of them at home. Yeah.
Do you have an opinion as to why, some of these newer gloves don't catch on? Like, is it just a superstition thing, or is it just like a lot of these guys are creatures of habit, or, from what you've seen, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say a stockpile. Like, teams will, whatever a popular glove is, you've seen it with the CCM, what was that, like the U plus or whatever. You don't really see them now, but for the prior like 10 years, like so many guys are wearing them, right? And that's just more of a thing of like, you come to camp, they just give you those gloves, and then the guy gets used to them and he's in them. And even like I had wore those my first few years pro, and it was just because wore them in junior, easy transition to pro. They have a ton of them around. And so I think it actually takes quite a bit to get into like a specific model glove of, different palm. Like, it really takes a lot because you come into the league in such a generalized like glove, really. Like, of the palm is just whatever. You don't really care. The glove is kind of whatever. And it takes a lot for a guy. It's either you sign with a company, sign with a Bauer or, CCM, whatever. And then they really start noticing, like, okay, this guy does this to his glove. Yeah, maybe I want to try that. And then, maybe they try it. But that's what I would say. As far as like the older ones, the team just buy up like a ton of them, right? And so it's not like, when a glove or a new helmet comes out, or even skates, to that matter, the team already has 10 pairs of skates for you. It's like, well, you ain't going to move straight away into the new model. You like this pair of skates, they've worked well for you, and you have 10 more pairs. So it's like, well, what the heck am I going to try those ones for? And that's kind of how I would say it is, and why you don't see guys switch in like new pants or new like, those what are the pants right now too? There's very popular Bauer ones. They have like the triangle thing on the back. I don't know if it's a Nexus or whatever.
Yeah, it's the Nexus. Yeah.
Yeah, like you'll see those ones run for a while, because it seems like those are the popular ones. Teams are probably like just buy a ton of them, and yeah, they'll just sort of run them into the ground until whatever they somehow land on the next set. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess kind of to piggyback off of that, you've had some experience, obviously, going up and down from Tucson and to Arizona from the AHL to the NHL. So what's it like, equipment wise, when you get sent down to the AHL and called back up? And like most of us here and most of us watching this know that, the AHL CCM obligations due to their partnerships.
Yeah.
But obviously, sometimes like it looks like exceptions have to be made. Obviously, there's certain exemptions that each team has. So what was it like from your experience?
Yeah, so each team, to generalize a little bit more, there's three exemptions on sticks for people. You can usually use whatever the heck skates you want, helmet and all. Actually, helmet. I think somebody sued the league or something a long time ago over a concussion. And then it changed, and you can wear whatever helmet you want.
Yeah, just as long as the logo is
as long as the
up.
logo
Yeah,
is
that
blank
started
up.
like a handful of years ago, I think.
Yeah, I want to say,
yeah.
I think the first year that might have started was the first year pro, because I thought coming into Tucson, I'm like, I'm going to have to change helmet. That's when I had that react. And the first day I got to camp, they just blanked it out. And then I didn't say anything about it, and I didn't really know. And just wore it, and yeah, it was all good. And then I finally, a few months in, asked, and they said, yeah, you can wear whatever you want now. But
all along you thought you were breaking
yeah, I thought, I'm like,
no, and
then I thought, because I started so hot, I'm like, well, they ain't gonna
yeah.
change it now on me,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of how it goes. As far as like, let's say like in Edmonton, so I was using CCM at the time anyway when I was in Arizona. So I only really went, I think, up and down once or twice. But at the end of Edmonton, I played, even though I think I played like 20 something games or whatever, but I was there in Edmonton from September until March. So I was there the full season. When you're on roster for that amount of time, I didn't know, like, I got sent to play the last month of the season in Bakersfield, basically. And they didn't give me any, like, I showed up, I had Warrior pants, I had Warrior gloves, was using Bauer stick, and they didn't change anything, and I was playing. And it was the same thing where I'm like, oh, I ain't going to ask about it and bring it to attention, because then maybe they're like, oh, maybe he just forgot. I don't really know, right? Like, I'm not going to bring it to his attention. And then he's like, oh, yeah, let's give him CCM gloves. So I just kind of went on. And one day, Sevier was down there with me too, and he was wearing Warrior stuff, using Warrior bucket, whatever. And I said to him, I'm like, Seves, why are we, like, what's the deal here? Like, why are me and you wearing Warrior and stuff? He said, oh, when you're on roster in the NHL for, a certain amount of days or games, then it doubles coming down into the American League or something along that. I might be getting it wrong, but, if you're on roster for 60 days, well, that means when you come down, it's like a double that period that you can use what you want. So I used Warrior gloves and all that the rest of the year, and but usually you would have to switch out. Like if it's a guy who's up and down a lot, or he's been in the American League, went up, played a few games, came back down. He's using, a CCM. You have to go back and forth equipment. So that's kind of how it works. And yeah, as far as sticks go, it's a, 3 exemption sort of rule. And, you have it could be designated to a guy like last year, Zach Dalpe. Dalps had it in his contract. He has to use Bauer. He has to be an exemption. So most times I would say it's not really in that, but usually they would it's like seniority. They give it to guys who are, a bit more, who might go up and play in the NHL or whatever, not really so much like a rookie or something. So that's how it kind of works. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I remember during the lockout year in 2012, like even guys who were still young, but they were in the AHL because they were eligible, like I guess they were the ones who were considered
Mm,
the seniority because of their names, I suppose. So
yeah.
so yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, how about from in junior? Like obviously in the OHL and the CHL, same thing. CCM gloves, CCM helmets, but I feel like you get more guys who are using, different kinds of sticks. Are there more exemptions in terms of sticks? And like from a junior standpoint, like do you guys still get like as many sticks as you need, or does it vary by team, or how was that from your
Yeah,
experience?
good question. I think like in my day too, it was each team had their own deal, and I think it's still somewhat like that. So for us, my first year in Niagara, we had Easton deal, and then Easton was kind of on the tail end out. And the next year we had CCM, so we switched over all CCM stuff. And I'm talking more. I think that's just sticks, to be honest, because we use CCM pants, gloves, helmet. Like they have all the kind of body stuff, but it was just sticks. Um, yeah, I mean, as far as like getting stuff or whatever, it's somewhat limited. I mean, again, there's ways around it. Us guys like we used to like. I would want a new fresh stick. So at that time, maybe the certain team only allows you like, no, you can't have any more than 4 on your rack. And it's like, well, I know, we're coming up Thursday, boom, Wednesday night, accident happens. I jam it in the boards after practice. And you were getting guys doing that all the time. Like me and my buddy, shout out to Miku, Alex Makulovich plays over in Russia. Such a good dude. He played on the World Junior team for Russia and stuff, defenseman. He was like, Bubs, I'm going to skate from, he would wind up like behind the net, come flying down. I would give him a one-timer pass, and he would just put everything into it to try and break his stick. And so yeah, we were doing stuff like that, man, and trying to always keep it fresh. Like the junior teams were pretty good with equipment. I mean, skates wise, you probably only go through like 1, maybe 2 a year. Whereas the NHL, to give you a guy like Zach Ronaldo, like Rhino used to switch like every 2 weeks. So it's a big difference in stuff, right? Of going from one pair of skates a season to every 2 weeks getting a new
Yeah.
set. But yeah, junior is you're pretty much same, almost like Europe in that regard, where they give you all the equipment, as far as your outer body stuff or whatever. But it does seem like I've noticed that too. A few more kids using True and a couple of these companies now in the OHL. That hopefully it's kind of growing. Man, I wish it was even in the American League. Like I had this talk with one trainer where I just think it's sort of BS, man. That like this professional hockey, you're telling me you can't use what you want to use, and you're like, I had that the last 2 years, like in last year in Charlotte, the CCM with those sticks, they couldn't replicate that Taze curve. It's a 1 degree higher lie. So with a higher lie, I blow it over the net. I can't keep the puck down. So they do it higher. I'll give you the chart right now of this. So Bauer makes this. This is about a 5.5. I would say about 5.5. Teetering close to 6. True makes it under. They make it flatter, probably about, I'd say, a 0.5 degree flatter. Warrior makes it a full degree flatter. And this is all, we're talking the same Taze Hossa Pro curve here. CCM makes it 1 degree up. Like, so you see the difference of like, there's no gauge, like, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to get into a stick that's a way higher lie. And you're like, well, why can't they just bump it down? I don't know. Ask the company. You know, I truly, I don't get it. Like, no one seems to be able to replicate, you know, what you want. And they might sound picky and whatnot, but it's like, look, I've done this for 20 years, you know, like at this point, like I know my feel, I know what I like. Like, I just agree so much with the player of like this, when the player goes to the trainer and says, this is what I want, that's them articulating their feel into what they need to be their best. You know, it's hard sometimes when I get a rep or a trainer saying, man, you should try this, you should do this. I'm all for suggestions and whatnot, but I'm the one who has to use it, and I'm the one who feels what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? You understand what
you're the professional, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, you've been doing it for 20 years. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to like, I think they should open it up, man. And it would totally cause way less confusion for so many guys if just at whatever level they could buy whatever sticks, you know, the team could buy the sticks and the equipment that they want, you know, and I don't see like what the big problem would be with it. I know, I understand there's a money side of things. CCM has some rights and blah, 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 but it would be really cool to see it opened up and even more so like even this is a completely different conversation, but I don't know why you're not allowed to customize skates, man. Like, and not even to the degree of like what they got now, but like look at a soccer player, look at a basketball player of like LeBron. You know, he don't go with the generalized shoe from the store. You know what I mean? Like he can make it however he wants to make it, and I think they should open up everything. Skates, design them however you want, like not just one tack. You know what I mean? Like I just, yeah, I hope that comes to play soon. You know, I don't really think it will, but I hope at least sometime soon. That would be really cool.
You're seeing a little bit with like Marner and like Matthews for like All-Star weekend. They will go on these like special skates made, and it's so cool. And it's I've always said like goalies get these awesome masks where they can really like show who they are. It's like it kind of sucks being a player. You don't really have that. I mean, the customizations you have is just so minimal on your sticks. Like it's basically color or a tiny logo that nobody can see.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree. Yeah, and it's a shame. Like, I guess I understand for a couple of the big boys, but it's like, man, just open it up. There's a lot of personalities out there, and they're always after like, oh, grow the game, grow the game. We got show personalities. The hockey guys are dull, blah blah blah. It's like, well, you sort of like pigeonhole everyone to wear the same thing, look the same way. You don't even allow guys to freaking tuck the jersey anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You're like,
Oh,
man,
man.
dude, open it up. Like, dude, the Sergei Fedorov, think of all these Yashin wearing a turtleneck type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I love that. I love the individuality of guys growing up. Like I mentioned, Gabrick and all them guys, like just cool. They were themselves, you know? And I guess that's one thing, if you know, get nothing from this as far as like the podcast goes, with my style across the years, I've always just tried to be me and where I was at that time, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess just a few more before we let you go. We know we've had you for a while, and
No
obviously
worries.
we appreciate it. But you know, in saying some of those notes right there, what about you from like a superstition side or a routine? Like not necessarily superstition, but like was there an equipment routine you absolutely had to do? You know, while getting dressed for a game or practice. What were any of those?
Yeah, so I'd say I always like still to this day I get dressed left to right. I don't know how that started. It just did like right when I was a kid. And it feels odd to like not that like I could put the stuff on the other way or throw whatever on. It doesn't really matter, but it just feels like odd putting my right skate on first. I don't really know why. I just I do everything kind of left to right. Um, I've had some different quirky ones along the way and stuff, and I don't even know if I like to. Yeah, everyone says that. I don't know. They like to call it superstitions, and I really don't. But it's just more so of like a thing of like, I felt really good that day, and I could do something completely different. But if I did that and I had that same feel and I felt really good, it's like, well, why wouldn't I continue to sort of do that? Mine, I think when I was younger, they got a bit like outlandish of like I don't even know. I couldn't even really give you an example, but just I'm trying to think on something. Yeah, I'm not even really sure, but I'll give you an example of when, let's say, I was in Chicago and I went a really good run close to the end of the year, and I got Host's pattern in on like my stick, so it was longer and stuff, and I didn't cut it, and I just started using that. I used it one pregame skate, it felt really good. And when I switched back to mine, like that night, I was like, felt super short, felt like I could move it wherever, boom, score. So then it became every pregame skate, it was just using that stick, using that one, and using that curve and getting the feel again. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess it's sort of a hard question in a way because I'm not really, too picky. Like I said, I mean, you can. I'm to the point. I say this where it was like if it was a dire need, like last year, where I used every stick under the sun, man, just trying to get some sort of feel and something. And but I know, like my inside and my feel, like in my heart, what I like to use, what like brings out the best in me. And right now, it's this like and that's what I sort of asked you guys of like, because I seen guys sort of switching into that Zegers curve, and yeah, I was interested in Bauer if there's any sort of newer codes these days, because that 2N Pro XL one, like myself and Jonathan Taze, like Taser always used to talk about this, like in the sticks. He's like, man, it can't be too, bottom heavy or bottom light. It has to be like perfectly balanced. And he really like he did that with his stick, man. Like it's definitely the best one I use so far.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, we really appreciate you coming on, but before we kind of close it up here, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to, plug your YouTube channel and if I may ask, I know you've
Mm-hmm.
got the new episode coming pretty soon where you'll talk about your stick collection and you reveal the best stick ever. We're not trying to get you to spoil the surprise or anything, but how about a small hint on what it might
Oh
be?
man,
You don't have to go
I
into it if you don't want to. We can wait
yeah,
till the
I
episode,
think
but
I think you would be a bit shocked, I guess, at what
okay.
I
All
what I
right.
say.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. I think you would be able to see a somewhat of a pattern within what I've used, but I don't know if you would guess this one. I'll put it that way. But yeah, just to plug for anyone out there listening who doesn't know, just search Brendan Perlini on YouTube. Go to my YouTube channel. Actually, I'm doing a giveaway too right now. Once I hit 20K subscribers, giving away one of my signed NHL sticks throughout the course of my career too. So make sure, yeah, hit that subscribe button and check out my other stuff. I'm at BubsP on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It'll be all that kind of content. There's a lot of, if you're a golfer out there too, a lot of golf content coming and stuff as well, and some other stuff kind of mixed in between. So yeah, guys, appreciate you giving me the platform to kind of tell that stuff, but also just come on here today and yeah, kind of shoot the shit a little bit with you guys, and we'll have to do it again too, because I even had some other stuff in my head of a lot of other things we never even got into, like even visors, man. Like I switched to some different stuff with that over the course of the time too. So we'll definitely have to do it again.
Say less, man. Yeah, we'll definitely have a Brendan Perlini part two. But yeah, once again, we can't thank you enough for coming on, being our inaugural guest. What an amazing first guest you've been. Of course, that was some good, like these are some points that we wanted to, like, that have been on our minds for so long. And like I said, we get questions on them all the time. So for you to come on and address it, we definitely really appreciate it. But yeah, all of you watching Brendan Perlini on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to him and follow him on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, hopefully a part two, a few months along the way. But thanks again, man. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Anytime you need me, I'll be around for sure.